Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. The following interview is designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be. Your host, Derek Champagne, is the founder and CEO of The Artist Evolution, a full-service agency building successful brands, marketing tools, and campaigns, and also the author of the best-selling book, Don't Buy a Duck. And now, let's begin today's Leadership Series interview.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where our goal is to inspire you to become the best leader that you can be. I'm excited. You know, I get excited when we have a guest in the studio. We have Dev Ganesan in here today. Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
I'm going to read your bio for a minute. You are the CEO of ItemMaster. You've received the Smart CEO Future 50 Award multiple years in a row. That's incredible. Recognized as a Washington Tech Titan, former CEO of Fishbowl, former CEO of Aptara, of Trados, and then co-founder of IntelliWorks, and you're a board member with BrandMuscle and many other boards. But ItemMaster recently was named Chicago's best tech startup of 2017. Is one of the fastest growing companies right now. That's an impressive resume. I want to read a little bit more about ItemMaster as well. More than 1,000 retailers, agencies, and mobile app developers access ItemMaster's network as a one-stop source of certified brand content through their Open Exchange network. This allows them to offer manufacturers real-time analytics and actionable brand data to drive business decisions. Privately held company, ItemMaster already supports complete and verified content for over 5,000 manufacturers and is on a mission to reinvent and deliver packaging for the 21st century. Again, the CEO of ItemMaster is here with us today. Dev, thank you again. I'm just already so impressed and excited to talk with you and learn from you. Can you take us way back? I know you've got a really interesting life. And so take me back, if you don't mind. We like to start with our guests at their early years and tell us kind of some highlights where you're from, what's kind of motivated you, and then we'll talk about where you are today.
Thank you. Again, great to be here. Always it's good to, when you reflect back in such shows as to, all the fun time you had. I had an incredible journey, and always I say this, that I got here through meeting some amazing folks through my journey who are a big mentor, and that's where I like to start with. And like many other folks, right? I'm from India, and so I came here and I was doing consulting with Deloitte. And during that process, that's my first exposure to different companies, and you saw some big companies and small companies, and you came across a lot of senior businessmen, and I was very fortunate that some of them went on to become good mentors for me and guided me in saying, hey, this is what I can do, and since then it has been one after the other. And I think always I say this to all business leaders, especially entrepreneurs, when they start something very early, just don't do it yourself. Talk to people, have one or two advisors, mentors, who can sort of help you, understand you, and walk you through the pitfalls and how to go about. And I think that I've been pretty lucky in finding some good folks.
I love that mindset too, and we talk about that on the show sometimes because I'm a knucklehead. And I've learned things the hard way. And I wish I had learned from someone like you early on and they were there. I didn't know what to ask, or I was too proud to ask, or I was holding my cards too close. I've had 8 companies, 4 of them have not done well. And so, and I attribute that to me not asking for help and not learning. I didn't know what I didn't know. What was your mindset early on to know that was what you should do? Because you've made some really good decisions and you've helped a lot of companies too along the way.
My the family background and the upbringing was always ask for help. And my father went on to become CFO for British Petroleum. So from nothing he went on, and he got himself educated. The family didn't have any money, so he had a part-time job, put him through some accountancy programs as he was working elsewhere, and then he rose. And it's through asking for help and trying to be humble about the journey. That's a key thing, right? Going in saying, I just don't know enough. And you cannot know enough. Even now, after running 4 companies, always you are in doubt You basically know that it's just impossible for you to know everything, right? But one thing is, if you can know what your weaknesses are or what are the areas you need help, then there are enough people you can bring on board, whether you advise them on a mergers and acquisitions or advise them on a technology or in an industry. Those are the kind of things which always help you. And for example, ItemMaster, we are in the space of CPG and retailers, helping them figure out how basically they can transition quickly at scale into the e-commerce world. Right? My background is not exactly CPG, right? I've done a lot of work in the retail analytics. I've done work in the publishing, unstructured data, analytics, big data, technology, SaaS. So when I came on board to ItemMaster, the first thing I did was to surround myself with folks who know this industry. So Andy Walter, who was a CIO at Procter & Gamble, now he's on my board of directors. He's helping me understand the space, and I've been working with him closely. Same thing on the retail side. I have folks like Bill Bishop, again, a well-known who has spent years and years in this industry, sort of advising me. So I think we need to reach out to folks who have been there, who have done it, so that you can harness all of this information, and then you can be a little bit more successful.
That's great. I love that. And it sounds obvious, but it's really hard to do. I know that because I've personally struggled with that. What are some ways to find the right people? What are some things that you have to let go of to be humble enough, I guess, to make sure that you are being objective about what you really know and what you don't know, and finding the right people?
Right. I think it all starts with that you need a team. So as an entrepreneur, all of us say, hey, you know what, we want to do everything ourselves, right? I can do this better than anybody else. And probably you can, because that's your strength. But you can't run a company and scale by doing every aspect in the company. And those companies just flounder after some time. Maybe you can do it for a couple of years, but after that, you just need a team. So that's when the first lesson is you build a good team and really bring them on board and delegate to them. But as somebody said, delegate but verify. Just make sure that that everything is in order. And things are changing so rapidly, right? Technology is changing. The business processes are changing. Industry is changing. So what you knew 5 years ago today must have become irrelevant or redundant, obsolete. So you need to bring on some folks who can sort of help you. In fact, my wife laughs about it. My son is just finishing his undergrad, but he is already sort of knows more about blockchain and Bitcoin than ever I will know.
Right. And
a couple of months ago, I asked him, hey, what is this everybody talking about blockchain? And sort of he sat me down and walked me through what it is. And I said, gee, that's much easier than ever I will find by reading books and trying to figure out. So I think it is that openness we need to have, saying that we need a team and you need mentors, and it can be anybody. And that's why very specifically I'm on some advisory board, and I work with a lot of the millennials who have startup companies, because you learn a lot. It's not like I'm advising them. Yes, I'm giving them some grown-up supervision. But in turn, you are figuring out what's going on, because that whole world is rapidly changing, and best way is to if you spend a couple of hours on a weekend with them, you learn a lot. I think it's a two-way street, and the more you engage with different folks, you get to know what's going on in this industry.
That's great advice. I appreciate that. And you have such a great track record. I've done my homework on you and the companies you've been with and how you've helped them grow and help them scale. It's very impressive. I'm going to go back a little bit again. I know that your dad was a CFO of British Petroleum. Your brother was CFO of an engineering firm as well. Tell me about the other influences that you had from your family that helped shape you. And are there any other major influences on you that helped to get where you are today that really stand out at the top?
I think the family is big, right? I mean, my father did well, coming from a very humble beginning. My brother did extremely well, and for me, the first big impact was made by I joined a company, and the founder is a retired Navy satellite communication officer. He started his company, and and he just asked me to join. And he, as the company was growing, I was taking more and more responsibility. Eventually, I made 7 acquisitions, grew the company from a $25 million services company in the C4I, command, control, communication, intelligence within the federal government, and we went on to become almost $250 million. And George Robinson was the founder. Like, I will just say that, the kind of confidence he had in you that you can go and execute, that I would say is the single biggest impetus for my success and growth. And all of us need that, right?
Right.
Somebody at some stage need to trust you and give you that kind of backing. And you're going to make some mistakes, but they realize the talent and the backing. I was extremely fortunate that I had somebody like him who trusted me in my first job and of running a company. Right. And since then, it's been a good success. So I think that's why I say that when you build your team, when you build your board, you need to be careful, right? Just don't go by some big names. People fancy big names. Right. And to me, they may not have enough time to spend, and they may not be a perfect fit for what you need. So more than big names, I would rather go with surrounding yourself with businessmen and others who have the relevant experience and who have the time, who can sort of help you to sort of guide you through in the early stage, which I think is the single biggest thing.
That's great. I love how you've learned and got a chance on leadership and do the same thing. What other top leadership principles stand out to you, how you manage and grow your team?
Oh, it's a very, very interesting question. I think it's the success or failure of a company. I think I can be pretty confident in saying it's all about your leadership. And I am a big believer. Very early in my career, I got introduced to reading about Jim Collins' Good to Great. And it had a very big impact on me. Because some books you read, and here is a book that you could implement in every aspect of the business, every aspect of your life, right? He's basically talking about level 5 leadership. What makes a good company become a great company? Right. So I have tried to implement this level 5 leadership almost in every company I go, and that becomes the culture of the company. So the culture of the company is all about having the right people, and secondly having the right people in the right spot. And Jim Collins talks about saying how people should be self-motivated, right? I don't believe in motivating my own employees, because then I'm spending the wrong time, right? I should be out there with the customers and spending my energy out there. So that's one of the key things he says is, if you are constantly motivating your employees, that means you have the wrong employees. Right. Get them off the bus.
Yeah, I love that. Have the right people on the bus.
Right.
One of my favorite books.
Absolutely. And then he talks about a very important thing, which is basically not only having the right people on the bus, he talks about humility and into the details. Jim went and did research in like 1,000 companies, and he found that the most successful CEOs and level 5 leaders were not the flashy ones. They were very shy, very uncomfortable with themselves, but very humble and into the details. And those are the characteristics that constantly we try to embed within the companies. And if you can bring, and that's I think what some of the larger companies like Apple and Google and others have done, a culture where everybody is collaborating and working as a team and in search of excellence. I think that's what I try to do in company. Because if you have the team, you can literally achieve anything. It's not about technology. It's not about customers. It's about employees. If you have the right team on board, you can achieve anything.
Wow, that's great. So tell me, this is the Business Leadership Series.
Right.
So we have people listening, and the entire reason for listening, other than to hear some inspiring stories that motivate them, are also how do I become an intentional leader? So I like the idea of being a better leader. I like the idea of humility, but what do I do? Like, where do I start if it's not naturally in me to have that level of humility? And I'm not saying me necessarily, but our listeners, what are some things we can do? What are some resources? What are some practices we can put in place that help us from today on to start making actual steps to becoming at least a better leader?
Right. So, a very good question, right? I mean, it's always a challenge. 'Cause as a CEO, as a leader, you know all the answers, right? And so you know the magic, right? And so I think as a starting point, I go into meetings and say that I'm not going to say anything in a meeting, and listen, right? I think that's the single biggest thing we need to start. Like, go in and let us listen to what others are saying instead of just coming out with an answer. Because you are smart. Most of the businessmen, they are very quick and fast, and probably they know the answer. But I think the challenge is not listening. And so I think that's something people need to start making it as a habit. Allows others to talk, give more credit to folks, because many times things happen not just because ultimately you can't take credit for everything. You shouldn't be taking, as a principal, you shouldn't be taking any credit. And if things go wrong, you should be taking the blame again.
Right.
So those are the things which you start practicing. It's easy, and generally I don't allow negativity in the company. Right? Hey, it's open, but people can talk above the line and below the line. Above the line in a positive manner. Let's talk openly. Encourage to basically face the brutal facts. Because nobody wants to talk about the bad issues in the company. The product doesn't work, or challenges and implementation issues. Nobody wants to talk about those things. But everybody wants to talk about all the great things that you want a new customer, right? All the positive things. I think you should encourage people to talk about the not so positive things, but in a more positive manner, so that you can find solutions. Because if you know, the real key is to knowing the real issues. Once you know the real issues, you can go and fix it. So that's what I think we can start in simple measures by listening in a meeting, giving credit to the team members, bringing them in, let them make some decisions. If there are some things going wrong, it's fine. You take a blame. But then lessons learned from that, saying, how do we make sure we don't get that again, right?
Yeah.
Those are, in fact, I remember somebody, I think Rumsfeld once said that, allow people to make mistakes, but make sure they don't keep making the same mistake. Like, let them make the new ones.
Right.
And I think, but in this process, you're running fast. You have what I call as an intelligent speed. You run quick. You make quick decisions. Everybody is part of the decision-making process. You're not the only one on the table. There are others. And that's when these things start clicking, nobody can stop you. The company's going to win.
That's awesome. I love that. You talk about facing the brutal facts. I feel like Good to Great, was that the Stockdale paradox?
You got it.
Where they talked about just facing it in that hope, and then coming and then looking for what the solution is on the horizon.
Right.
But pretending there wasn't a problem doesn't help.
Exactly.
But also not focusing on the negative. That's great. I love that you're living that. I've read it. It's harder to live it sometimes, and you really are implementing that, and that's amazing. So what do you like about working with companies that are in a process of transforming themselves?
Right.
Seems like that you're attracted to.
No, I mean it's very interesting. Right? It's a challenge, and at the same time, listen, these are some very interesting times. Look at it, right? There is amazing new technologies coming along, like blockchain and machine learning and artificial intelligence and big data and whatnot. At the same time, a lot of businesses are struggling, and many of the retail businesses are going bankrupt, but some of the businesses are doing well. So these are very interesting times. Many things happening. And so this is an opportunity for companies to understand what's going on and adopt some of these technologies pretty quick, because it's if you don't, basically you're going to be left behind.
Right.
And I think and these changes are for real, right? The companies have gone building products in the cloud. Everybody's leveraging big data. Everybody's leveraging machine learning. And those are for reality. And if you refuse to do that, companies will be put out of business, and are being put out of business. So it's that So what do? Is I try to bring some of these technologies to an existing business, saying how can we move forward, and how can we help customers who are expecting you to bring this innovation,
right.
But they're all struggling. They're saying, okay, how do I get my products online? How do I basically go and win this e-commerce world? How do I, that's the way things are happening.
Right.
And so this is a good opportunity for you to basically bring some new innovation, which frankly, the larger companies, if you're an IBM, if you're an SAP, I don't know, I'm not saying that they're not innovative enough, but I think you as a small startup can move quickly and bring some new ideas and deliver on that than bigger companies. So that is an advantage we need to latch on. And more companies now are relying on startup companies like us.
Yeah.
Right? And they're saying, hey, this is where innovation is going to happen. So a lot of companies in Silicon Valley and Chicago and DC. So this is an opportunity that we can jump in and create some real transformation and value along the whole supply chain, right? The customers win, that end customers win, our shareholders win, and finally employees win. And then and more importantly, all of a sudden, the entire company now is working on new platforms, not legacy stuff, right? So it brings them more modern. Right? They are working on machine learning. They are working on artificial intelligence. They are working on big data. It's all new stuff, which is where there are more jobs going to be created in these markets that even for them, getting exposed to these things are good for them personally. So I think all in all, that's what excites me is that, when you do this transformation, it's basically transforms everybody in this ecosystem. But it's tough but I think it's fun when you win.
And we've seen some giants. I mean, I could think back to Blockbuster and Circuit City, which was in Good to Great as a case study, right? And some others that just didn't see it coming or didn't make the right decisions, and they're gone now.
Right.
And so you're right. These are interesting times, and I love that you're part of that solution and that you recognize it in that way. That's really powerful. What is? I'm curious. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, it's many, and the best advice my dad actually gave me is there are a lot of opportunities out there if you pay attention. Right? If you pay attention, there are a lot of opportunities in any situation, and you think about it, and we just miss the obvious ones.
Right.
And I think that's because we just get caught up in so many things. We never focus on the strategic aspects. So that's what I always try to do, saying, okay, what's happening in the marketplace? And if you look at some of the successes I've had, the first company which I had was called Aptara, where we helped the publishing companies transform from print to digital. So we helped them transition to the ebooks. Right. And it's an obvious thing, right? So when I spoke to the customers, everybody said, hey, we need ebooks. That's where the market is going. Similarly, in the current environment, when I came to ItemMaster, I sort of made a roadshow and met around 50 to 70 customers, retailers, and CPGs. And the clear mandate is, hey, we basically need to cross this digital transformation and go into this e-commerce world. Because that's where the growth is. That's where the market is. At the same time, give equal experience to the consumers when they come into the in-store, so that they have exactly the same experience, right? And frankly, when you think about it, it's obvious, right? People, when they are buying, you just need the same experience. It doesn't need to look different when you go online and you buy something, and then when you come to the store, it looks very different products, different pricing. It's a bad experience. So that's where I think, sometimes you just need to pay attention, and you can't miss the obvious.
And I love that. Can you think of any other reasons why we miss opportunities?
I think we are, we don't pay enough attention, because we are too busy doing things. We are very busy.
Right. Yeah, we are.
So we are, traveling, closing deals. I call it very transactional.
Yeah.
So always I say that everybody that, couple of hours a day, right? Take it as a personal time. Do some reading. Do some strategic reading. Step back and spend some time thinking of the issues. And meet some interesting folks where you can talk, debate strategically, and those are sort of that's where the answer lies, right? Whereas when you get caught up in the day-to-day details and transactions and operations, then you're busy, but you're not adding any strategic value. And frankly, the big value you can bring to the table is not all these day-to-day operational issues, but if you make the right move on the strategy side, that can help us in a big way. So
that's great advice.
In fact, I read very early that in Japan, in some of the one of the companies, they mandate everybody like an hour where they stop the work and do some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Which allows them to be very strategic and do whatever they want.
That's great advice. And we do get stuck working in the business in those. I'm rereading the E-Myth Revisited right now, where it talks about, are you the technician, the manager, or the entrepreneur, with that mindset of holding the vision and being able to see things. And I get stuck sometimes in the technician mode instead of being able to step back and do what you're suggesting. It's so easy to fall into it unless you block that time.
Correct.
Great advice. Thank you. Talk to me about big data analytics and then how a company can get more from their data.
See, it's all about data. It's all about information, right? I mean, the information, it's the more we know, the better we can address a particular situation, right? The more I know about a consumer, the more I know about their habits, the more I know their psychographic and demographic data, then I can serve you better, right? And this is exactly what big data allows you to do. And so if I knew as a consumer, right, if I think about this, and that's what I'm trying to basically solve in ItemMaster. If I know that you are a vegan, or basically you have a diet preference where you don't like, you want a nut-free or a sodium-free diet, or how can we know that about you and then sort of show you the products that meet your requirements, right? It's all about personalization.
Right.
That's where the market is going, because there is a lot of data available, whether we like it or not, right? Yeah. And it can be put to good use. And for me, the benefit for end consumer is I just get information on what I need, right? If basically I need a diet which is paleo diet or ketogenic diet or low sodium-free products, why should I be looking at products which have sodium, which have high sugar, right? So the more I know about you, then I can basically show you those products, and so you can make your decisions quickly. If not, you're going to just move away. You're not going to buy, right? You're going to go to somebody else who shows you the product and has the transparency. So it is these kind of things, personalization, that's possible now with big data and technology like machine learning, cloud technology, and we are today seeing technology leaders like Walmart already implementing some of these things. And so that's one of the thrill in ItemMaster is we are working with some thought leaders like General Mills. We are working with some thought leaders like Walmart, and in bringing some of this technology and helping them through this process.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me, you've traveled extensively globally. Any highlights from your travels that you've learned along the way? Because I know you've done a lot of traveling and you've worked all over the world. Anything that stands out to you?
Oh yeah, it's up, traveling to different countries, and always I loved selling our products internationally, right? I mean, that's because always I thought that you need to go global. Doesn't mean that you need to open up offices in 100 countries, but if your products, if you have engineering products, you think maybe Germany, Japan, and France may be an equally good market for you. So why not go global within some of these markets, right? So that's an approach I took, and always, with specific markets where they may have a demand for your products. And so I had some very interesting experience. But the best experience I always say is that once I had a chance to basically sell some digital technology products to Vatican.
Wow.
Yeah. So we digitized some of the Vatican content books, and so I used to go and spend a lot of time within the Vatican complex,
Wow.
and that was absolutely, how many times will you get a chance to be inside such an amazing place and in fact do business. So similarly, same thing. Whenever I basically go to China, and I just come back saying in awe the kind of the infrastructure they have and the way they are growing. It's just phenomenal. And I just came back. When I was in Beijing, the government officials took me to a library just to show me the library in one of the cities. It's fairly big, and there was a big sign there, and basically the sign read as, basically it told the students saying, hey, as you're turning a page, just remember that there's somebody else in the world who's going to turn the page faster. That means going to learn much quicker. I thought that was just,
Wow.
Came back and told my kids.
Wow.
So those are
That's
some
great.
interesting experiences around the world, and I always encourage all of the entrepreneurs in the U.S. saying, as we are coming up with our business strategy, absolutely we should think about a global strategy. Doesn't mean you need to go like to 100 countries, but come up with where else can we, that'll be a big demand for the products, and it doesn't take much to penetrate 2 or 3 markets where there are the obvious need for a product like yours. Right. So when in Aptara, when in the publishing business, we went global. So we went to England, UK, and obviously a big market for English content. We went to Australia, South Africa, but also then Germany is a huge, large publishing market. So we pick and choose, saying, okay, this is how we go. So and it's interesting at the same time. Can be fairly productive for us.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've got a few more questions for you if you'll indulge me
Absolutely.
for a couple more minutes. I find it interesting. You've digitized the Vatican, but I still have to ask, what's your proudest accomplishment or moment? It doesn't have to be a big moment. It could be something small in your life and your career. What's your proudest moment that you can think of?
Listen, there are numerous situations. I think I will say that of all of the moments, one of the companies I had, we were selected as the best technology company, and I think it was Steve Young who gave me this award, and he autographed a football and gave it to me.
Wow.
So I came back, and until then my kids didn't know or didn't care what I did.
That happens sometimes.
That's when my son asked me, like, Dad, what do you do? So I need to thank that. Got him interested in business, and both the kids today are in technology and business. But I think,
but it took Steve Young signing a football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when I got more credibility at home, saying, okay, I'm doing something that is that's
you must
interesting.
be doing something cool, right?
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. So let me ask you this: what are you most passionate about?
Creating value, right? Interacting with the customers, interacting with my employees, and creating this new innovation and value, right? That gets me going. And that's, I'm not a guy, I'm going to sit in the office, right? It's just when you go out there, meet the customers, meet partners, and figure out what's going on and be helpful. And then you just, sort of help one step in their goal towards, becoming a good e-commerce company and going online and whatnot. And if you can accomplish a small aspect, I think that gets me really going.
That's awesome. Give us kind of a final information from you about, you're the CEO of ItemMaster. Give us another minute about ItemMaster and where you guys are going.
So ItemMaster, in one line, what do we do, right? We basically are in the business of creating product attributes, right? So we create enhanced attributes about a product so that we make the product come alive, and as folks buy those products online or in brick and mortar, we basically try to give the retailers as much transparency on the product so that the buyers can know everything about a particular product. So that's what we try to do, and basically, give more visibility on the product information out there, so that the buyers can decide and discover the information they need. It's all about transparency, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to Northwest Arkansas. We're glad to have you. Congratulations on your success. And I know you're a lifelong learner, so you've got that great humility about you, but you're just an inspiration to learn from. I know our listeners are going to love that as well. So Dev Ganesan, thank you again, CEO of ItemMaster, and we look forward to watching the next great things that are going on in your life and with the company that you work with.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
You've been listening to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. This interview was designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be.